wait a sec. You said
wait a
find
sec.
one maxim that's transcendent across situations.
I didn't say any of those words. I'm not sure what conversation you're a part of.
Don't be a smartass.
I'm sorry.
Don't be a smart. He wasn't even being a smartass. What conversation were you a part of, Jordan?
Hi there.
It's very nice to meet you.
What's your name?
I'm Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Yes. So God says that you can own people as property. He says that you can beat them with a rod too. He commands genocide in Deuteronomy, in Numbers, and in Samuel. I mean, they have a goddamn baby barbecue in Numbers. Like, is all of this in line?
I'm surprised Jordan Peterson didn't stop him and say, "Watch your language, young man."
With Christian ethics?
No.
So then God doesn't fit within Christian ethics.
Well, the biblical library is a continuing story, and everything written.
Why do you talk like that? Why do you speak like that? The biblical library is a continuing story. Just English, bro. Just speak English. And I know his fans will point at this moment and be like, Aladdin can't even follow his words. I can, but why? Why you got to make it like that?
It's very on brand for him at this point. I wonder if he even just digs into it just because people come to expect it now.
Library is a continuing story, and everything written in it has to be contextualized by the entire text. There's 65,000 hyperlinks in the biblical text, and you can take pieces of it out of context and criticize them, and that's what you're doing. But
in what context is barbecuing babies, as he put it, okay, or killing every animal and person on the planet okay? He's pulling the context cards like Muslims and preachers of other religions would tend to do whenever something is, seems problematic. They're like, well, let's look at the context. Or like, you are not looking at it in context. It's not even let's address the context. It's just a blanket context.
That's a mistake. I think it's an analytic mistake because you're putting the cart before the horse.
I really don't think so. I think that if we say that something is Christian ethics, then I think that all of the books essential to Christianity would fit with it, especially if it's like the main character. When we're talking about
how do you deal with
God,
the morality of war?
So
how do you think you should deal with the morality of war?
Sure. Because I feel like the morality, like I feel like Christian ethics, like this is kind of, I guess I just think it's like kind of an absurdity to say that God doesn't fit within Christian ethics, but sure, well, we can go on my ethics. That's totally fine.
How that question came out of nowhere, by the way. How do you deal with the morality of war? Does that question follow for you? From
to weasel out of the question, you said God isn't in the same morality, I guess, or doesn't agree with Christian morality that he's trying to, bolster today or point to as the guidance for everybody. God himself isn't following that. And instead of answering that, Jordan Peterson is asking, how do you deal with war? What do you think should be done? Do you think we shouldn't kill anybody, not even in war? What are the ethics of the death sentence? What are the ethics of punishment? No, answer the question. Let's not go into all these tangents.
Let's go through the example. So in 1 Samuel 15:3, God says, go and slaughter the Amalekites, slaughter the men, the women, the children, the infants. What's the justification for that? Is that in line with Christian ethics?
That's a good question. I don't really know what to do with the terrible, blood-soaked, saturated history of the human past.
What the? Did you notice that deflection? I thought he was going to say, I don't know what to do with that Bible verse. I don't know what to do with that part of the Bible.
It's the humans, because I don't think he ever blatantly says it, but it might be a case where he thinks that it's some kind of metaphor or like a story that you're supposed to take, like not that the literal God that he believes in, or I don't know, transcendent God, if you don't want to say literal, that he believes in would actually do such a thing. It's actually us doing it.
What to do with the terrible, blood-soaked, saturated history of the human past? I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows. I mean, what you try to do in your own life, as far as I can tell.
Again, that's the whole, nobody knows what to do about war and about conflict and about blood and the blood-soaked history. We're talking about a Bible verse. Like, if he were to say, I don't know what to do with that Bible verse, I would respect him a lot more. And, a lot more from a very low degree is very easy to achieve. So, all you need to do is throw me a bone here, Jordan. Just say, I don't know what to do with that verse. Instead, he's like, I don't know what to do about mankind's violent history altogether.
I can tell is to conduct yourself in a manner that makes such things much more unlikely.
I totally agree.
We're all saddled with the problem of the catastrophes that got us here, aren't we?
Yeah, but this one was commanded by God. That's the problem. That's what
Exactly.
differentiates it from anything else, is that this one, it's God
Do you
saying,
think that
go
there's
and do
ever
this
such a thing?
atrocity.
Do you think that there's ever such a thing as a righteous war?
I'm skeptical. I'm not sure.
We're not talking about a righteous war here. We're not talking about, does anybody have the right to defend themselves? We're talking about this instance of God mandated genocide. This one instance, Jordan.
Probably situational.
Well, right, fair enough.
But this one certainly wasn't a just war. The context for the Amalekite slaughter is that 400 years earlier, they fought one battle, which they lost, and God says, that's it, I'm going to wipe them off the face of the goddamn earth. And then 400 years later, he commands the Israelites to genocide their great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren. That's not a just war at all. And also, a genocide is not a war.
Well, a genocide can be a war, but...
Fuck you, Jordan. That's not the point to focus on. No, you don't start arguing semantics of what is genocide and what is war. Just focus on the point. And I wish someone would have told him, put genocide aside. Let's just talk about what just happened right now.
Absolutely not.
Look,
the genociding of the Amalekites, the men, the women, and the infants, that's not a war. The infants aren't combatants.
Look, I already said that it's very difficult to look at the blood-soaked past and to know exactly what to do about it.
You said nothing regarding the verse.
No, he clearly wants to just move on because he has nothing to say.
He's like, look, I already said I gave you a half-assed answer to this. Why are you being so rude and pushing me on it? Why are you being a smartass?
The answer I gave to the gentleman who is sitting here before you is that it's necessary to read a text like the Bible at all of its levels of analysis simultaneously.
Oh, so now it's about levels of analysis. They genocided them, but like, what does it really mean when they genocided them?
Yeah, you have to consider what did he say earlier? The 65,000 hyperlinks in the Bible.
Yeah. Did you click all the hyperlinks? Are they all purple? No, then don't talk to me. They got to all be purple before you could talk to me.
And there's a directional morality that emerges across time that has its roots in the Old Testament, for example, with its restrictions against murder specifically.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I have to pause this. There's a directional morality that, bro, answer the question. What about this instance of genocide? Well, there's a directional morality within the Bible that has to do with the instance of, sorry, we'll listen again.
Directional morality that emerges across time that has its roots in the Old.
Bless his heart. He's thinking so hard. Look at his face. Like he's deep in thought. This man is trying to reach for a single critical thought and there isn't any. It's
dealing with
empty
these irksome atheists is taking every ounce of willpower he's got.
Testament for
yet it's the atheists who are not composed and scattered and anxiety ridden and everything. But this guy's doing really well. Look at his face. You could see it in his face.
Bible at all of its levels of analysis simultaneously. And there's a directional morality that emerges across time that has its roots in the Old Testament, for example, with its restrictions against murder specifically, that makes itself manifest in the Christian texts as the insistence on voluntary self-sacrifice as the foundational belief. That's a profoundly anti-violence ethos.
Do you have the belief in your theology?
Well, what do you think of that? Wait a sec. Now, redress what.
Oh, so now we're going to put people to answer what you say when like you weren't answering anything straight. I'm honestly, I'm struggling to follow. Can you summarize what he just said?
So my interpretation of what he means by directional morality here is that
interpretation. Interpretation.
shoot. I'm already in trouble. I think he's saying that we moved from those kinds of acts happening, like the genocide of the Amalekites, towards a different morality where a murder is abhorred and condemned. And it's a journey, and you have to follow the Bible through that journey. And maybe you can then interpret from that the Bible is intended as a guidebook for humans so they can better understand that journey in the past and also in their lives today.
All right. So different levels of comprehension and like essentially like, well, I was crazy back then. You know, it's that excuse. Like humanity was immature back then, and humanity is the one that genocided people.
Or he's trying to teach us a lesson. He did it to teach us a lesson.
Would a flawless thing say, here's what's good, here is the absolute good thing to do at all circumstances in time?
Well, we know some of that.
Wait,
Tell
so
the truth. That's one.
That's totally fine, but presumably...
No, you don't...
What? Well, God says tell the truth, and he never changed his stance on that. Therefore, genociding babies is okay sometimes. because it was, the progression of morality. But tell the truth has always been there. How does this mean anything?
Get to skate over
because
that,
this is a
which
straw
that's
man.
totally
It's a
fine.
straw man of my position. It's a straw man of the argument. So
In
the
what way?
argument
No,
is
wait
that
a sec. You
I'm
said
already waiting a sec.
find one maxim that's transcendent across situations.
I didn't
and
say
I
any
just
of those words. I'm not sure what
Okay,
conversation
rephrase
you're a part of.
I didn't say any of those. Wait, let's hear that again.
Wait a sec. You
I'm
said
already waiting a
find
sec.
one maxim that's transcendent across situations.
I didn't
and
say
I
any
just
of those words. I'm not sure what
Okay,
conversation
rephrase
you're a
your-
part of.
Don't be a smartass.
I'm sorry.
Don't be a smart. He wasn't even being a smartass. What conversation were you a part of, Jordan? He said, if God is perfect, then God wouldn't change over time. That's essentially what he said. He didn't say, find me one axiom that hasn't, changed. That's such a low ball. No, is it a low ball or a low hanging fruit?
Yeah.
A low hanging fruit. Find me one thing.
I love how the atheist immediately said, I'm sorry. Just because like he really is putting him in like a professor angry dad mode right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't have apologized to him.
No,
I'll
me
be like,
neither.
you need to grow a thicker skin. Like, how are you 62 and you still get so offended at like someone not revering the ground that you walk on and the silliness of your points?
Say
I
any
just
of
did.
those words. I'm not sure what
Okay,
conversation you're
rephrase
a
your-
part of.
Don't be a smartass.
I'm sorry.
Seriously, I mean it. If we're going to
He means it, guys.
have a serious conversation, conduct yourself properly.
Okay.
Shut the fuck up, Jordan. You're not my real dad. Like, what? Conduct yourself properly, young man. I mean it. Go back to your room and
Make your bed.
make your bed. Because if you don't make your bed, you're scattered.
Okay, rephrase your question so that because I must
Sure.
have missed it. I
So-
tried to answer it.
So in my mind, I guess by my lights, a perfect being doesn't change. A perfect being, if they're maximally good, maximally moral,
Does our understanding of the perfect being change?
our understanding might, but
Okay, how
presumably
do we
what the perfect
distinguish? How
being
do we
is
distinguish?
revealing.
Well, I agree. How do we distinguish between that, though, at the human level?
How do
so-
we distinguish between whether,
Between our transforming understanding of perfection and perfection itself.
Between our
we can only, yeah, well, we can only
presumably
see
a
through our
perfect
own
being,
lenses.
presumably a perfect being?
So again,
Aladdin, how do you change your oh my god, I already lost what he was going to say. You're changing understanding of perfection. How do you handle that in your day-to-day life?
yeah, so I don't know. Like I adjust to it. What do you mean by day-to-day life? What do you mean by handle? Because am I handling this conversation right now? Am I handling watching this video? Who knows?
Barely.
He
See,
keeps doing this thing where he's like, what does this mean? It was a meme, but it's actually true. Now he's talking about what does perfection mean?
so like to me, I think it's almost like he's saying that we can't handle the perfection of the knowledge of God and what God wants us to know or understand, and so God had to have us genocide people in the past so we could then learn on this journey to developing and improving our morality to abhor murder. That's like the most generous interpretation I can give to what I think he's trying to say.
And even then, there's something to argue against that. Like, God didn't have to order genocide because our fragile minds couldn't comprehend the axiom, the unchanging axiom that genocide is bad. Like, he could have just not spoken on that topic or just, not commended anything about it or commended something good. Like, why do they make it seem like God's hands are tied and it's all kind of like it's God who's beholden to our progression of morality and our evolution? Not that this was his whole like plan all along and it was all under his control. You can't have it both ways. By the way, I want to talk about the format of this for a second. So thanks for the super chat, Ambi. They say, I find these videos really disingenuous. They don't create an environment that fosters actual communication, just controversial arguments for clicks. I agree. Even though, Jubilee, if you want to invite me someday, I'll be happy to come over. But I think a lot of these formats are made to be sensational, not actually to do anything productive.
I think in a way, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. It's actually kind of genius because I was thinking about it a little bit more. They've kind of hacked the debate format. So instead of sitting down and watching like a dry, sometimes tedious debate for an hour and a half, just have people, forced to kind of talk at each other for like these more, clickbaity viral 2-minute bits or 6-minute bits, whatever it ends up being. and that way it becomes way more consumable and more people are going to watch it. Is that a good thing? As we can see already, not really.
Yeah, and also it's hard to keep a conversation going in a positive or productive direction if you keep switching the person you're having the conversation with. And Jordan probably feels like he's being ganged up upon, and I'm sure he's okay with that.
He's surrounded.
Yeah, but it's not conducive to a productive conversation. It doesn't set the tone for a conversation where you can, get past the emotions with the person, figure out how to speak with them, how not to step on their toes, because you've got a new person every few minutes.
Who said that's the goal of anyone involved, though?
True.